All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Semper Sometimes. This is going to be a very special podcast with somebody that I feel like I've been following up with for like 2 years. So a lot of my guests are people that are very busy in the Marine Corps. Sometimes they're on deployments, sometimes they're in one place, and then the next thing or they're in completely different hemispheres, so the time doesn't match up. So it's very hard to get people on, especially my time and their time, and get those things synced. So I'm very happy that I'm finally able to have Lieutenant Colonel on, because it's someone that I've been trying to get on for a while, but our schedules just really never matched. But sir, I'm so excited to have you on, just to talk to you about your long, illustrious career that you had and are currently having, sir. Just all the different things that you're constantly posting all the time, whether it's in English or in Spanish. Just constantly talking about the Marine Corps, talking about your heritage, talking about all the things that you've done as somebody who immigrated to the States, and just the longevity of your career is an amazing one, sir. So please, without further ado, introduce yourself for everybody, and we'll kind of go from there, sir.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. When depends as to where you're watching, right? I'm Jose Montalvan, Jose Luis Montalvan. I was born in Nicaragua. I've been in the Marine Corps since 1995. I'm going over 28 years, and I've done so many things and so many just unique things that I never even imagined I was ever going to get to. But we'll talk about that as we're going forward. Hey, buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches, depende de donde ustedes están viendo este stream. Mi nombre es José Luis Montalvan, teniente coronel de la Fuerza de las Marinas de los Estados Unidos. Yo he hecho bastantes cosas desde que yo entré al ejército en 1995 y vamos a hablar un poquito de eso más tarde, pero al momento quería introducirme y es un placer estar con ustedes esta noche o este día, esta tarde.
Wow, thank you for that, sir. I appreciate that. But sir, just starting off with the why, sir. How did you find yourself becoming a Marine? And like, I know you said that you immigrated here from Nicaragua. So like, how did that process go for you? And in that process, sir, did you ever think that you'd be here, a 28-year Marine, or even like, what were your hopes and dreams as you were immigrating here? What were your thoughts, sir?
So you have asked two different questions, right? And I want to be able to answer them. So I'm going to go back to where I came from to where I'm at, right? So
Mhm.
in I was born in 1975 in Nicaragua, right? So I'm not going to take you through all 48 years of my life, but um, right, I was born in Managua, Nicaragua, and like I've said many times, and I'm not ashamed to say it, my family is pretty humble. We come from almost nothing, right? So during the Sandinista revolution and everything else, things changed from the way it used to be. And it got to a point around 1985, 86, that there was a war, right? There was going against the Contras, and a lot of people were dying. A lot of people were fighting and dying and coming back in caskets or in body bags. And they started making, and they made a rule that at a certain age, I believe it was 13, kids couldn't leave, especially boys couldn't leave the country. So my mom at that point decided that it was best for me to leave Nicaragua and coordinated with Miami, aka Hialeah, la ciudad que progresa, in vicinity of Miami. But if I say Hialeah, nobody knows where that is, right? Um, and they decided that it was best for me to leave the country. Um, I couldn't go by myself. I was barely 11, so they coordinated with an uncle that he also wanted to come to the States. And my mom tried to go through the embassy and get a visa. That's a little fussy because I was so young, and she worked it out. She was trying to make it work. And for my knowledge, for what my understanding is that it was denied. So at that point, they basically got, there used to be a tourist company that would take people to Honduras and Guatemala, and we understood, and many people understood, that when you got on that bus, most of the times, some if not a lot of those people would never come back, because they would get off in Guatemala and never come back, right? Because they were looking for passage to the United States. So that was one of us. Those were two of us, right? That we got on the bus, never came back. Um, we waited, and then after that, we got visas to go to Guatemala. And I mean, we got to Guatemala, then we got visa to go into Mexico after almost a month. And we went through Mexico and we crossed the Rio Grande. There's a lot of stories that I skipped in between, just trying to get to the second question. But it just anyone that has done that transit understands that is not as easy as clean cut as I'm explaining it right now, right? There's people in there that know that you're an immigrant, that you're coming through to go to the United States, so you have a little bit of value, you have money, you have all your belongings with you, whatever is left, right? Because you had to sell the majority of things and not everything in order to get into that route. So there's occasions in there that people are going to come in and they're going to try to rob you. They're going to try, to stab you, to take your belongings. And if you're a pretty young lady or they perceive it to be pretty, there's possibility of rape, assault, or you name it. So it's not easy. So I skipped a lot of things that, in that story. But I just want, anyone that has done that transit or anyone that is listening needs to understand that that is not easy. And we sometimes as immigrant, we kind of like wave it off, right? It's like we did what we had to do, but it acknowledging that it was not easy, that we experienced things that sometimes is not right to experience, especially at a young age, is really critical. Is acknowledging that portion is really important for your mental health and going forward.
Yes, sir.
But once I got to Hialeah, right, it goes back. I slept in a pull-out couch for a year and a half. We didn't have much, but I tell you that my aunt and uncle, um, they were amazing, and it's still amazing, and I love them to death. And I call them my dad and mom to this day. They took off, and they used to work so late and so early so that they could provide for me. Um, they didn't have any kids, so I became their kid, and they would always say, we might not have much, but we might not have be able to give you steak every night, but we're gonna give you what we have. And the saying was, "Donde dos comen, tres pueden comer." Wherever two people eat, there's always food for three, right? So we always had that mentality that the family was the strength, um, the strong bond that kept us together, regardless of struggle, regardless of challenge, and that we were gonna move forward. So going through middle school, elementary school, middle school, high school, it was difficult, right? Because I was learning a language that I barely knew. And if I didn't know, and I've said it before, I knew songs of Michael Jackson because I used to listen to Michael Jackson in Nicaragua, but I didn't even know what they meant. So when I was going through in English as a second language, right, it was challenging, right? It was letter by letter and word by word and phrase by phrase. And coming from where I was studying and I was advancing pretty well, and going to like now slowing down, it felt like I was reversed, right? Like I was not smart enough. My accent was there, so I was self conscious of my accent. Um, I kept something that I wrote that I thought it was an essay that I worked a lot on in school, and then it got destroyed because she wanted me to become better, and I kept it right for a long, long time. And it reminded me of the struggle. It reminded me of how difficult it was to learn English, how difficult it was to write. But all those challenges made me who I was, right? So now going to the Marine Corps, uh, that was 1987 all the way through 1994. I graduate. I'm thinking I'm going to go to college. I'm planning to go to the University of Florida. I'm planning to run cross country. I'm planning to do all these dreams, and I have all these goals in my mind, and I'm set. I'm going to do things that nobody in my family has ever done.
Hmm.
And then I realized through a letter from financial aid that I don't qualify for financial aid, and I don't qualify for any loans. I don't qualify for any scholarships because I had my work permit, right? But I did not have my resident card, right? So at that point, I'm like, I cannot afford $10,000 a year. I cannot afford going to college. I cannot afford all those things, right? That I wanted so much. And I wanted to just be able to get out of Hialeah, be able to get an education, be able to do all those things. And it just plummeted. It just got destroyed, right? Um, so I started going to Miami-Dade Community College, and I was unfulfilled. I wanted to travel. I wanted to have a house. I wanted to have a college degree. I wanted to have all these things in my life. And I felt that I couldn't do it because I was an immigrant. So going through, I kept on working to trying to get my resident card. And along those lines, I remember the recruiter that came from, that came to Hialeah, Miami Lakes, and he kept on talking to us and kept on talking to us. And I kept on waving him off because that's not what I wanted, right? My family was not going to tolerate it because I just left the country to be able to run away from the military, to be able to not even go fight. And now I'm like, I'm not doing this because I want to go to college. But he kept persisting and he kept persisting. And as I was going through the process, it got to the point that I realized that that was probably going to be my best option. And just because of his persistence and seeing something in me that other people probably did not see, or they definitely didn't see, I came back to him the day of the day that I got approved for my resident card, and I told him that I wanted to enlist, and that's how I got into the Marine Corps, and that's how I started into the Marine Corps, and I haven't looked back since.
Wow, that's crazy, sir. And it's awesome that you say that, like, you're the whole entire thing, right? Like explaining like how you felt as an immigrant, you had all these plans, and then all of a sudden life had different plans for you, right? And now you're starting to feel like overwhelmed, right? Like you want the house, you want the college, you want all these different things, and now you're finding out, well, this isn't going to work out this way, right? And the recruiter
Yeah,
approaches you, and I'm actually dealing with this exactly right now with a young man, and he said to me the other day, he's like, dude, you really, he goes, you're really persistent, huh? He goes, you recruiters are really persistent, and I was like, listen, man, and I said exactly what you just said. I said, dude, I was like, "Man, I really see something in you," and I was like, I see more in you than you see in yourself." And I was like, "All
yeah.
these different things you want, you have, right? And you have the ability to do them, and that's what I want you to, to look at in the Marine Corps." So, what was it about the recruiter or about the Marine Corps that intrigued you? When this guy was being so persistent, what was it that made you think, "Okay, you know what? Let me take a second glance at this." Like, what was it that made you go back to him and start digging into that?
It offered an opportunity, right? So everything that I told you, I wanted to travel. I wanted to my mom in Nicaragua, right? Her dream was to go to Venice, like her number one dream. She always like she saw it on a video or something like that, and she always talked about going to Venice, and she always talked about, I wish that I could travel. I wish I could do this. I could, I wish I could do all that. And my passion for traveling has always been there, like history and passion for traveling. So he offered travel and adventure, right? And I'm like, all right, sounds good. He also offered financial stability where I didn't have to depend and start gaining more money. Okay, sounds good. But most importantly, he challenged me, right? Like he didn't believe, like when I told him, hey, I can run the mile and a half. And I believe I told him under 8 minutes. He's like, there's no way that you can do it. And I said, dude, that's all I do. That's all I run. I run, I train, I do cross country, I do track. Trust me, I'm going to go under. So there was always a challenge that came out, but majority the initial part was I wanted to travel, I wanted to have adventures, I wanted financial stability, I wanted education, and I wanted that, right? So the Marine Corps and that recruiter offered me an opportunity that I didn't think I was going to have somewhere else, right?
Mhm.
Think about this. It was like I'm an immigrant, right, with a legal working permit. That's all I have. I have a working permit. And somebody's telling me about all these things that I can accomplish. But everybody else, and there's like 9 out of 10 people, he's the only one, apart from my family, right? And I'm not counting my family because my mom and my dad always say you can accomplish anything, everything you want. You just got to study and put work into it, right? But if you take my family away,
Mhm.
there's 10 people in the lineup, and he's the only one that is telling me you can do this. There's more things out there. There's opportunities. There's travel. There's this, and and we always know, right? After being in recruiting for so long, especially almost 33% or 34% of my career as an officer in the recruiting world, I understand that we have quotas and we have missions per se, right?
Yes, sir.
But at the same time, he could have let me go. I was not his mission for that month. I was not his mission for 3 months. I was a mission for him, or a day, quote unquote, a contract for almost a year after, right? But he kept on. And he kept
Yeah.
on and he kept on. And the thing that I want to just make it, for whoever is listening, right? He was not the only one. He's not the only one. Throughout my entire career, and even after I stopped, like being a Marine operations officer in the 6th District, I see the things that you guys are doing in the streets in the high school for those high school kids. And you're not working just the kids that are going to be a contract. You're all investing in the future, and you guys are investing on kids that are not going to be contract for you guys 6, 9, 12 months later. And
Yes, sir.
even though when officers come in and be like, hey, you got to look for somebody else, you stick to that kid because you believe in that kid and you believe in the potential, and you see something that other people don't see because you interact with them. You see the family, you see the like the financial and education opportunities that they're lacking. And if they were to just have it, they're going to be, gosh, a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps, right? Or they're going to be the sergeant major of the Marine Corps. But we don't see that because we're a little bit disconnected, right?
Yeah. No,
So
100%.
I
It's so
love it.
true. Yeah, and my my buddy Staff Sergeant Morales, when we were recruiters together, he was born and raised here in New Jersey, but he's Mexican descent, and he had multiple young men that he met that were in the green card process, and he met them their freshman year, and he worked all the way through up until like they became seniors, and now some of them are corporals or sergeants in the Marine Corps, and it was built. It's about building that bond and building that that just, hey man, this isn't something that you can do right now, but if we work towards it we can get you there. And that's the biggest thing, right? Is forming communities and stuff like that. One of the biggest things that I hear from you, sir, is that the main basis of you becoming a Marine and talking to that recruiter was the travel and adventure, and then that financial stability. So in your 28-year long career, can you kind of run us through that travel and adventure? Like where have you been? What have you done? Clearly we can't go through all 28 years of it, but
Yeah.
can you kind of run us through that, for that young man or woman right now who's in those shoes, right? They're 18, 20 years old, and that thing that they want is travel and adventure, and it's something
Yeah.
that you wanted all these years ago, and now you've received it. Can you kind of go through that for us?
Of course, is my first duty station, right? Because I thought that I was just coming in for 4 years, was Okinawa, Japan, right? And I was like, I'm going to travel. I'm going to go to Okinawa. They came up and there was like, hey, there's 2 spots for Okinawa. And I took one of them, right? And then I was like, I just want to keep on serving. I just want to keep on serving. And then I decided that I was going to follow the commissioning path. But since I joined, I can I have traveled all over the United States, right? So too many states to count. But last time I thought it was like over 30, right? When it comes down to the travel in the countries, you talk about Cambodia, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Singapore, I think I already said Mongolia, but Japan, right? I've been to Colombia. I've been to Costa Rica. I've been to Bahrain, Saudi Arabia. I've been to Jordan. I've been to Germany. I've been France. So when I looked at the number, I think it was like 24, 25 countries that I've traveled, right? And you would think that most of them have been in personal travel, right? But no, it has been with the Marine Corps. The positions and the billets that I've had have allowed me to travel to all these countries. And yes, we do a lot of work, right? And some of them are major exercises, but you get to meet people, you get to be in a different country, right? And I mean, I got to, I went to and I was in Jordan, right? And I was like, I want to get off the ship because I was with a Mew. And I was like, I just want to go and touch, right, the sea, right? Like we're so many biblical figures were baptized. I want to just go there, and I put my foot in, you know, in in the water, and
Wow.
I felt like so powerful. It was just imagine. It was like things that I never thought that I was ever going to be able to do. I'm doing right, and it was beautiful. I mean, the Euphrates in Iraq, right? I say Alexander the Great crossed it once, I crossed it twice. I mean, it's just things that I love, right?
Yeah.
So the Marine Corps has afforded me opportunities that I never ever thought that I was going to have. And the financial stability has provided me opportunities for myself and also for my family. There have been occasions that I've helped my family as much as they have helped me throughout my life. And we support each other. So I don't necessarily need to live paycheck by paycheck or any of that, because I'm preparing for when I retire, right? So the financial stability has been something that it was offered to me, and is for sure has happened. The education opportunity, I went to Florida State, the Marine Corps, when they selected me to go to MISEP, right? The Marine Enlisted Commissioning Education Program. They sent me to Florida State. I graduated my bachelor's degree there. Uh, Before that, I got my associate from Tallahassee Community College. Marine Corps, along those lines, was like Tallahassee Community College, Florida State. And just less than a year ago, I graduated from one of the top, if not the top, war college in the world, with the National War College, right? And I got my master's degree on national security. So when we talk about education opportunities, they're there. And there's other schools that I've attended, and I've been getting certifications from. But my master's degree, I was a lieutenant colonel going to school, and that's what I was doing. It takes a lot of work, right? Getting from the time that I enlisted as a private to where I'm at. But I went to a national war college. I got a master's degree, and you know how much it cost me? Zero, because it was selection to go to that school, right? I went to the expeditionary warfare school. Zero. I got more training, right? So the opportunities are there. So I'm telling you that when you guys, as Marine recruiters, and I would say this, and I'm going to rephrase myself, I'm going to say Marines in recruiting duty. I do not like using recruiters, because you come back to the operating force or to the fleet force, right? Right.
Very
Even
much
those
so.
Marines are career recruiters, right? And we call them career recruiters. They're Marines on recruiting duty. Those Marines in recruiting duty still have to do a PFT. They still have to do a CFT. They got to do the annual training. They still got to stay current on a lot of things that are expected of Marines for promotions, for retention, and advancement, right? So I do not like using recruiter, because you're more than that. You're a Marine in recruiting duty.
Yes, sir. So one of the other questions, sir, really would be with one of the things that you were saying was how your recruiter was so persistent with you and you decided to go back to him. What would you say to somebody who's in those shoes right now, right? That person who's maybe been interviewed two or three times, they're in a community college or whatever they thought was their path isn't working out for them. And now they feel that beckoning, or they're like, you know what, maybe I should go back in that office. Maybe I should go talk to a recruiter. What would you say to your younger self, or in your shoes?
Well, I will tell you this: my younger self only went to the recruiter, I think it was like twice, right? When he came down to my, hey, I got, apart from the interaction that we had, as soon as I got, and I'm just gonna go with my resident car, right? As soon as they gave me my resident car, I drove to the recruiter's office, right? And I told him that I had it, and I gave him my number because I didn't have the car, right? So they gave me a paperwork and had my number. Then after that, he interviewed me, and I went to MEPS the same, like technically not the same day, because it was closed, it was late. So I went to the hotel, I went to MEPS the next day, right? So telling myself is like, hey man, be patient, because you're gonna get that car, and do exactly what you did, which was go into the recruiter, show them the car, tell them you're going to, going to the hotel, go to MEPS. Now, for those kids that are having those challenges, right, and they don't know if this is, I'm going to tell you to look the definition of insanity. It's doing the same thing, expecting a different result, right? So you keep on saying, I'm going to get a college degree, but you don't never start even with registering, right? So you keep on going, but you always back out, right? Or you go to class and you fail. And then you go to class and you fail. Or you come up and people are telling you, hey, you can do this. You're going to be a assistant manager. You're going to be a manager, but you don't even have a college degree and you're expecting to get that level. So understanding that if you keep on doing the same thing over and over and over again, is the definition of insanity when you're expecting a different result, right? So at one point or another, you're going to have to take a leap. You're going to have to take the opportunity that is offered to you and stop questioning yourself, because it's never going to be perfect. You're never going to get all the answers that you're looking for, because every time that you doubt yourself, there's going to be another thing that creeps into your head and saying, maybe I don't have that answer, and I'm going to come back to the Marine in recruiting duty, right? Or the Marine recruit. So you keep on coming back, looking for a way to convince yourself that that opportunity is going to be bulletproof, and that is not. That's never going to be the case because life is not like that. Even when you think you have everything in line, everything that is perfect, right? Something happens and it changes the course of that discussion or that path. And then at that point, if you are thinking that everything has to be planned, you're going to be mistaken because you're going to be disappointed, heartbroken, and you're never going to move forward. So for those kids that are having 2 or 3 times, I'll ask them, what is it that you're doing that is stopping you? If you're asking for travel and adventure, is there. If you're looking for financial stability, is there. If you're talking about education, is there. If you're looking for a certification because our jobs are in the Marine Corps, give you certification, they're there, right? If you're looking about self-confidence, self-esteem, whatever it is that you're looking, we're going to build you and we're going to train you. We never send you somewhere without the proper certification or the proper training, even to the point that you enlist or you become a pulley. Our Marines, right, spend hours and hours training them on leadership and mentorship, and they spend a lot of time on physical activities so that they're ready. So as soon as they make that commitment, and as soon as you make that commitment, we are going to be taking care of you until the end. I know a lot of Marines that still stay in contact with a recruiter and they have a bond that hasn't been broken, right? So we always go back to our recruiter. We always go back to that staff NCO. We always go back to that NCO and seek for advice. So that doesn't stop. And I will tell you what I do with my mentees, and maybe it works for those Marines that are out there. If you give me this number, right, I can assure you you're stuck with me for the rest of your life, either until I die, until you die, or something happens, right? But we're stuck together because I'm going to be checking on you. I'm going to be following up on you. I'm going to check on your life. I'm going to check on your family. I'm going to check on everything. And our Marines are already doing that, right? Our Marines do that all the time when it comes down from the time that they meet to the time that they go to boot camp, right? Our recruiters, our Marine on recruiting duty, check on those family members and check and answer those questions and follow up on our Marines as they're going through. So you're already making that commitment, but are you telling them per se, hey, once you give me this number and you make that commitment, you're stuck with me because we are a family at that point. And if you're not doing that, tell them that because that is what we're seeking. That is what a lot of Hispanic kids are seeking, that when we leave our families, right? Because it's the bond is so strong that you're going to be there and that you're going to help me and that you're going to take care of my family if something happens when I'm gone. And if you make that bond and that you make that commitment, those kids are going to feel a little bit more comfortable because I'll tell you that as Hispanics, we love our family. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
we are like, talk to our family, especially our mom, right? And our
Mhm.
mom
Yeah.
own us and they tell us what to do. And I say this to this point, right? My mom, she's 5'1", right? She says she's about 5'2", but she's 5'1". And and I'm telling you that to this day, when she speaks and raises her voice, I be quiet, right? The respect, the
Yes,
love,
sir.
and the passion that we have towards our mom is there. And so if you guaranteed and ensure that that is going to be the case, we're going to be
Mhm.
good. We're going to
Yeah.
be good.
So and that's actually that brings us into the point that I wanted to get to, sir. So so one of the biggest things that I've so and when my first tour on recruiting duty, I really didn't dive too much into the Hispanic area because it wasn't really in my area, right? Now one of my areas is predominantly Hispanic, right? And one of the
Yeah.
biggest things that I have come encounter with is well, number one, I don't speak Spanish, so I'm doing everything that I can to, get people on the phone. But one of the things that I have come in contact with, and what the teachers said, because we asked the teachers in the school, we were like, "Hey, what is one of the biggest problems that you would say that you have here in the school?" And the answer that they gave us, they said that it's the parents. And the problem is that because they work so much, they can't come to like the after school meetings and stuff like that, right? And one of the conversations that I was having with a couple of young gentlemen is that because of how strong their bond is with their family doesn't want them to join the military. They don't want to lose them. They don't want them to leave. They don't want them, and they can't really see the what's in it for them, right? So like one of the things that I've been having an issue with is really getting those families to understand hey, this is what the Marine Corps can do for your child, and this is how it's going to help you in the end, as long as you're with your child, right? And even to the point where a lot of moms and dads, when we call, they're like, no, my son or daughter's not coming into your office. I'm not letting them come in. I'm not letting you sit down with them. Even to the point where I'll ask, hey, I can go to the school so it's not interrupting with their work schedule. And they're like, no, I don't want you talking to my parent, my son or daughter. So my question to you, sir, is, do you have any advice, one, on how to get through to those parents, or two, do you have anything that you think that you could say to those parents if they are ever listening, or if we could pass that on to them, sir? Like, how would
Yeah.
you be able to bridge that gap, I guess you could say?
So, I would tell you, especially when I was in Albuquerque, we had some Marines that didn't speak Spanish, and it just happened to be that maybe I was doing one of those visits, right? That you guys, most of y'all, dislike. It's like the OPSO is coming, right, or the XO is coming, but sometimes they would use me for that, and we would go in and we would talk, right? So the first thing that I would ask you, or ask any Marine that is trying to talk to one of the kids in there, is, how much do you know about that country? How much do you know about Central and South American challenges and history? I'm not expecting you to go back to the 1800s or 1700s, but do you know what has happened in Costa Rica, or what has happened in Honduras, Nicaragua, Salvador, Guatemala, in Colombia, in Peru, in Chile? What's going on in Ecuador, right? Understanding a little bit about those countries is going to go a long way, because it's going to open up your eyes as to the perception that those family members or the parents have on the military,
Hmm.
right? So if you go back, you can go back as early as 18. There's always 1800s, right? There's always been a civil war in one of those countries. There's always been some conflict, some revolution. There's always been military fighting militaries or coups, right? There's always where they grab those young people and they go to war in the mountains and the jungles, and they never see them, right? And sometimes they never even recover the bodies, right? So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because they compare our military service to that military service, right? So one is letting them understand that we don't come up and just grab our kids and send them to war without proper training, that they don't go by themselves, that they're not going to be alone, that they're not going to be unequipped, untrained. Yes, there's some challenges that happen, right, throughout, and it's always going to be, because war is friction, creates friction, it's chaotic, and there's certain things that happen. But at the same time, we're really well prepared to deal with 9 out of 10 times of the items that come up, right? So making the difference, and understanding the difference and explaining the difference, that our service is not the same service that they have perceived or received or their family members had in their country, is number one. Number two, there's an idea that if you serve in the military, especially from our countries, that you're going to get out, there's nothing. And, in Nicaragua, they call them piricuaca, right? If I said it correctly, that they go in, they come out, and there's no certifications, there's no education, there's no benefits for them to go on. It just happens that they come back and they're going back to nothing. That is not the case when it comes down to our national service. That is not the case when it comes down to the Marine Corps. So understanding what the perception is and what they see is, right, I think is breaking through those walls and explain that that is not the case, right? What would I tell a parent? I would tell you, I would tell them like this, and I'm going to say it like this. Uno nunca sabe si no habla, si no tiene conversaciones de las oportunidades que hay ahí. ¿Verdad? Pónganle atención, denle una oportunidad y tengan una conversación a ver qué hay más. De verdad, si nosotros queremos a nuestros hijos que se levanten a las 5 de la mañana, que sigan trabajando hasta las 8 en construcción, que no hay nada malo con eso, pero eso es lo que queremos. En nuestra vida, mi familia, y yo estoy seguro que su familia, decían que quieren que seamos mejores que ellos. Si esa es la verdad, dale la oportunidad a los marinos para que te enseñen y te digan las cosas que hay ahí, que es bien importante. So I just said it in Spanish to whoever's listening, right? Hey, give them the opportunity to talk, right? You're never going to know what you don't know unless you have a conversation, right? Do we really want our kids like my dad, and I say construction because my dad um, worked construction until well into his older years, right? Do you really want our kids waking up at 5 o'clock and going all the way to 8 o'clock in construction work? If we're really saying be better than me, get a better opportunity than me, have more money than me, have a better house than me, and all those things that happen within the family, right? We have to listen to those opportunities that are going to allow our kids to advance to get those goals. Saying what we say as a little phrase, as a beautiful phrase, which is be better than me, but you're not open to those opportunities, basically is empty words, right? When you're 17 and you're 18 and you're 19, they're turning to you because for the entire life to that point, they trust you, they believe in you, and you're like the one that have taken care of them. But at one point or another, you got to look into them and be like, I want you to be better. I want you to do all those things that I told you that you can accomplish. Guess what? Let's have this conversation, because as much as it's going to hurt me seeing you go because I'm going to cry, I'm going to miss you, this is an opportunity that you got to take, right? So I would say that I would tell them, don't use them as empty phrases. Use them as an opportunity to, no kidding, validate that what you want for them is true. That you are going to push them to be better. That you are pushing them to get those opportunities so that they can go and become better than us, like we want. I tell my kids that I want them to be better than me, right? I offer them opportunities, but at the same time, I push them when they don't think that they can accomplish something. So it's that, right? We cannot continue saying that we want them to do something and then not support them when they actually come to us and say, hey, I would like to try this. And right off the bat, we shut them down. I would say that we need to listen to them. We need to ask them and then offer them opportunities, not opportunities, but suggestions, and give them the good, the bad, and the ugly and see what happens.
So Eduardo Tovar said this: "One never knows if we will go to war. Was one of my father's, an immigrant from Mexico's concerns before I joined the Marine Corps." Hmm. So how would you how would you verse that, or how would you say, hey, handle that, sir, with a Hispanic household?
Evodia, Evodio Tovar, ¿verdad? Muchas gracias por su servicio, muchas gracias por todo lo que estás haciendo por la Marina, y muchas gracias por estar con nosotros hoy. Basically, I said thank you very much for your service. Thank you for joining the Marine Corps and serving our country, and being here with us today. How do I answer that? Uno nunca sabe lo que va a pasar cuando vamos a salir y vamos al trabajo. We never know what's going to happen either when we're going to work. There's more accidents, right, that kills people every single day as you're leaving, and you're saying, and we take it for granted, right? We see our family members, our loved ones, and they're leaving for the day, and we don't take the time because we're in a hurry, we're running late, to give them a kiss or say, I'll see you later, I love you, right? But we don't know if we're going to see them back, right? When it comes down to just that phrase, right? Like, we never know anything. And I would come up and be like, I'll give you an example. My dad, he was working construction. I remember this because he scared the heck out of me, right? I think it was 1991, and he was working construction, and I think he was on the 10th floor, 11th floor, and he slipped, right? And back then, and safety precautions and all that. And he's from Cuba. He's not really my dad, but I told you he's my uncle, right?
Yeah.
And he's one of those like man's man. Is like, hey, I can do this and that. And he didn't have the safety or whatever it was, and he slipped. And the only thing that saved his life, was that a rod went through his mouth and held them. Don't ask me how that worked. It was just fortunate for all of us, but it was the rod that stopped him, and it went through. And if not, he would have fallen down. Right. That day, I didn't see him. I didn't even see him. Like, he left at 4:30 in the morning. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't say I'll see you later. Right. I didn't say any of that. So when we say those things, like, we never know what's going to happen in war, man, we never know what's going to happen when they leave our house. We never know what's going to happen when they go to the school. We never know when they just go and play basketball. They go and and they go and play soccer, right? I've seen kids, and I've coached soccer, that they're one of the best ones in the team, and then somebody comes up and slides or misstep and lands on them, and they crack their legs, right? And they never get to play again because the injury was too bad, right? So we never know. But if we live in the I never know what's going to happen, we're never going to be able to take an opportunity that is presented to us to become better, right? Or to not maximize our potential,
Yeah.
right? I don't think that there's a kid out there that says, you know what, I don't want to do anything in life. And maybe there is, right? Because I don't know. But the majority of the kids is like, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a scientist. I want to be something,
Yeah.
right? So we cannot stop them. Those
Yeah.
phrases in Spanish, it hits like even to this point, right? Like my mom speaks to me in Spanish instead of English because she could speak a little bit, but she doesn't speak a lot. But when I hear those phrases in Spanish, it hits me because it calls back on our culture, it calls back on our heritage, it calls back on how I was growing up, like I grew up, right?
Yeah.
So when they say things like that, it
Yeah.
makes us take a step back. And it's a
Yeah.
way of holding us back so that you don't take those opportunities. And in
Yeah.
case I would say, and I would say, this is how I would say it, right? Nosotros nunca sabemos lo que puede pasar en la guerra, pero nosotros nunca sabemos lo que puede pasar en la vida. Lo único que podemos hacer es hacerlo mejor, vivir la vida que tenemos y disfrutar los momentos que tenemos con nosotros. So what I said is, hey, we never know what's going to happen in war, but we never know what's going to happen in life, right? The best thing that we can do is enjoy each other's company, right? And I'm sorry because when I go back and forth, I maybe translate it differently, right? But we got to enjoy our life and we got to enjoy each other's company when we have it. And that's the only thing that we can guarantee, right? We're together. Let's enjoy it. Be together and maximize the opportunities and the minutes that you have with that person because you never know. But living in the what if, you're never going to maximize your potential, your opportunities. You're never going to get to travel like I have, and you're never going to get to have some financial stability and education opportunities like I've had. So you got to take a chance, and that drives me, right? My mom told me, I don't ever want you to join the military. Don't ever do that. And I joined when she was in Costa Rica, right? So I didn't even join when she was in the States. I knew what I wanted. I knew that I needed to take a leap of faith and be able to maximize that opportunities that were offered to me. She didn't talk to me for a long time. I'll tell you, like 3 months, she didn't send me a letter, right? She didn't say anything.
Hmm.
Excuse me. But when I came back or when I was graduating, she was there and she was proud and she was teary eyed and she was like, at one point she was crying and crying, right? And to this day, she's extremely proud. So you never know how you're going to react to seeing your kids accomplishing things unless you give them the opportunity, the encouragement for them to go for it.
Yeah, and I think too a big part of it too is just like even and I can't imagine how you felt going to boot camp and starting your training knowing that your mother wasn't supportive of your decision, so it didn't make it easier for you to be going through what you're going through, because especially with someone as your mother, that makes it harder. And back to one of the things that, so my boss, like you said, in Spanish, when you say these things, it means so much, right? So my boss is Mexican, and one of the things that he says all the time on the phone when he's talking to parents for me, I'm probably going to say this totally wrong, but en echenle ganas, like they say it loud, and he says it to all the Mexican kids and to the families, and it been helping out just because, like, like I guess, like, it's like if you're gonna do it well, like do it to the best of your ability type thing. um and ever since, and Gunny, a friend of mine, Gunny Cabrera, the other day he made this post and he ended it with that, and I shared it. But that's the biggest thing that I've received and I've been learning from a lot of people is that, like, as a culture, the Hispanic is very family oriented, like you said, and there's these big expectations and these big shoes to be filled. But at the same time, when these children are trying to, or young adults, we can say, when they're trying to go fill these shoes, they're being pulled back, and instead of being allowed to be pushed to go fill these shoes. And like this guy that I'm working with right now, he wants to be a Marine, but instead his family's just telling him, no, you have a job here in the factory, you have a job here in the factory, just stay working in the factory. Or like a lot of guys, like you said, construction or the tile jobs and stuff like that. And it's like, one of the biggest things that I try to explain to these young men is that, like, you're making really good money right now, right? You're making really good cash, but what happens when you decide to have a family and you need to have credit and you need to buy a car and you need to what you want to buy a house and you want to have a mortgage? And I'm like, you're not going to still have those abilities. And now where comes, the medical and the dental and all the other things that you're going to need, and talking about the financial stability piece and stuff like that. So like that's the biggest disconnect that I have, is trying to get those families to understand that that's what we're offering, and how it can help them, in their own situations and stuff like that.
So, hey, before I joined the Marine Corps, I had two jobs. And I had money coming, right? And and it was great. The temptation of money, right? The temptation of money is there. It's always going to be there, and you want more, but you're going to spend more, and sometimes you're going to spend more money than you don't have, and you're going to see that money in your pocket. But then I would ask you, or ask anybody, what is good? Like, what is money good for if you're working 7 days a week? What is good for if you're working 6 days a week or you're resting on Saturday, but all you're doing is sleeping because you're so tired of working 14, 15 hours a day or 12 hours in a really difficult job, right? Because putting towel, I've done toweling, right? It was painful. That's painful on your knees. That's painful on your elbows. That's painful on your back. That's painful on everything when you're putting towels down, right? When you're doing building stuff, I've done that, when I was younger, right? And it's painful, it's difficult, and it's hard. It's hard work. So yeah, you're gonna get money because you're doing that. But wouldn't you want to have maybe Saturday and Sunday off? Wouldn't you want to have Saturday and Sunday to be able to travel and spend time with the family and hold your mom and spend some time with your mom and spend some time with your family or whoever it is, or travel on the 4 days, right? So when you're in construction, there's not necessarily holidays, right? Unless it's Christmas and New Year. So wouldn't you want to celebrate 4th of July with people, right? Wouldn't you want to celebrate Memorial Day, Veterans Day, whatever holiday it is in the United States? Wouldn't you want to do that? That's my question, is like, how much work is work and how much is, yeah, you're getting the money, but do you get to enjoy it?
Yeah.
Because going in and you're saying that I'm going to get all this work, but I'm going to get a nice car. The car, as soon as you drive it off, it starts devaluing. The price starts going down, right? So yeah, you look good, but what does that get you, right? You're
Yeah.
driving from work to like a party and whatever it is,
Yeah.
and you're looking cool.
You
It
don't even
doesn't
get
do
time
anything.
to drive the car.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I would say is take a look at what you want in life. And no kidding, reflect on what opportunities are there. And I keep on talking about opportunities because opportunities on not maximize, they don't bring you anything, right? So, yeah, yo trabajé, tenía dos trabajos y tenía dinero, pero no me daba nada. Trabajaba tantas horas que yo no disfrutaba, yo no hacía nada, no podía, tú sabes, no podía hacer nada, muchas cosas. Entonces, yeah, el dinero es bien ahí, pero what does that matter? And I just said basically what I told you in so many words in Spanish, right? What does money matter if you don't get to do anything with it, right? And you don't get to enjoy the family? It's really, we're like, we cannot say that we're all about value based and at the same time come up and say we all want money and sacrifice, but we don't get to enjoy each other. So I would say money brings a lot of temptation, a lot of opportunities, but at the same time, if you cannot maximize those opportunities or those things, what is it good for?
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more with you, sir. So in your 28 years, the word opportunity has come up a lot in this conversation. What would you say are some opportunities, that you remember, some great memories that you've had, sir, and then just some things that you would love to share with people as a phenomenal reason, and like a thank you to having joined, like type thing, sir.
Yeah, no. So let's go with the opportunity to be a Marine, right? Like that doesn't happen often. Like, I mean, they see us out there and talking about it, but we know that less than 1% of the nation has served in the military, and we are 200 and well, like 172,000 right now. So even less than 1% of the nation are in the Marine Corps. That is a tremendous opportunity that we're offering you, and we don't offer it to everybody, right? So we don't go in and people say like, yeah, you offer it to everybody. No, that's not right, because we come up and we talk about mental, physical, and education, right? They got to be even the basic qualified for that. So we're even checking to see if you even have the opportunity for us to offer you the opportunity to have this, right? So the opportunity of being a Marine, right, well, becoming a Marine is not given to everybody, right? So that was an opportunity that I value every single day of my life since I became one, right? And you don't join the Marine Corps, you become a Marine, right?
Amen.
And it's really important to make that distinction. The opportunity to go and travel the world, right? That's something that we don't get to do often, right? And the Marine Corps does it, and you get to do that, but it comes with some sacrifices. I would tell you the opportunity to get a master's degree, and I come up owing $0, right? That is a great opportunity that once I retire the Marine Corps, I'm going to be able to get a pretty good job because of that master's degree, right? So there's so many opportunities out there when it comes down to my career that if I wouldn't have taken them, I wouldn't have been here. And I'll give you this, and this one is, and because we're talking recruiting, I love recruiting. I'll tell you this, I love recruiting duty. Um, and people think I'm crazy for that, but if I had, if I love it. It was some of the best memories, right? Some of the best memories, and I say that because it's challenging. Whenever you got challenges, it makes you bond together, right? And I can tell you, my Segundo Sergeant Ramirez retired about 2 years ago. I still remember him, Dessa, right? My Sergeant Gray in Albuquerque North, right? My Sergeant Walter, my op chief, Curran, my op chief, they were both in Albuquerque South, right? And I just go down and I remember these names and they still contact me and they still go that, right? But I'll tell you that one of the opportunities that I had that I could have gone the other way and would have changed my life would have been me turning down recruiting duty in 2006. When it came down to that, they said, hey, if you want to really find out who you are and you want to find out what you're made of and what you're capable of and what's your breaking point, you go to recruit, right? And that's what it was told to me, right? It's the most difficult duty that you're going to have. But if you survive recruiting duty, right? And it was, like the way the picture, it was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be really bad, right? But if you survive recruiting duty, you are going to be just a better person, a better officer, a better leader, a better mentor. And they just went down the line. So
Amen.
at that point, they offered me all the jobs. I got a phone call and said, hey, there was a mistake. You can go to recruiting here, or we can waive the orders and you can go somewhere else, right? And they had said, well, if you still want to go to recruiting, we'll send you to Denver, we'll send you to South Florida, whatever it is. And I decided to just go and take Albuquerque. And I said, okay, well, the mistake that happened, but I want to go to Albuquerque or nothing. And at that point, Albuquerque was one of the lowest, rank stations in the nation. But going there changed my world. The challenges that came up, the difficulties that we experienced, the interaction, the relationships, the people that I met, it just changed my world. And it changed the perception and the view on what recruiting is all about. And the change that we make on people's life, the way that we help people to become better, we help them see things that they don't see themselves. And most importantly, we offer them, at least as an officer, and those people, and even a lot more Marines out there that they're recruiting, uh, they do things for kids that recruiter back in 1995 did for me, right? And I would never ever say thank you enough, right? It is difficult, it's challenges. You're all sacrificing a lot for the families, for the nation, for the Marine Corps, but you are making a difference and you are making so many people's lives better. And I just, like you said, dale gana, right? Keep on pushing, keep on going that way. And don't let the challenge and the obstacles deter you. Don't let the no's deter you. Don't let the parents deter you, because you are doing what you're meant to do, which is change people's life, make a difference in people's life. And I thank you for that.
Wow, thank you, sir. And I'll be honest, sir. Being back now about 9 months, in my second tour, very drastically different than my first tour, as much as I didn't want to admit it. Before I came out here, I was like, oh, it can't be that different. Drastically different with all the new things that are here and here to stay. And that's one thing I'll ask, sir, and we'll kind of cap it up there. In your 28 years of being in the Marine Corps, sir, how do you deal with just the mental health of it all? Like the hard days, the days that you don't want to get up and go to work, the days that you don't want to get up and go to the gym at 48 years old. It can't be easy. Still running PFTs and CFTs. So what would you say, sir, is how do you find your drive and what is your why, sir? And why have you stayed so long?
All right, so you asked a lot, and along those lines, because of my recruiting experience, I can catch up on words, right? You just call me old without calling me old, so you're getting pretty good at this recruiting thing, right? Uh, so look, I tell, and I'm gonna go and talk about the association that I'm the president on later on,
Yeah.
but I will tell you this. I tell my mentees every single day that you have, either you're getting better, you're staying the same, or you're regressing, right?
Mm.
So even when I'm tired, even when I'm hurting, or even when I think that, why am I doing this, right? Like sometimes because we all think that. And I'd be lying to you if I were to say no. I wake up every day and I wake up with my coffee and I'm like ready to go. Right? No, sometimes it's just there's some challenges, work hours. There's some topics, and there's some things going on in life, and you think about it, it's like why am I doing it, right? And he always goes back to this. I love what I do. I love the Marines. I love working with Marines. I love working with people that look and say, "Hey, sir, what can we do?" And then at that point, I turn into servitude, right? But when and and people think that I'm a lieutenant colonel, right? I tell people what to do, and I'll tell you that politically correct or not politically correct, whatever people want to call it, I always say, "Can you please do this?" or "Can you do this for me?" Right? There's been occasions, obviously, that we got to go, right? I got to say, I need you to do this, and you need to do that. But I try to make sure that the human aspect is always there, right? So for me, it's really important to get up and give you the best of me. And the best of me might not be 100%, but I'm going to try and strive to be giving you 100%. And I said it yesterday. I don't know if you saw that. I love seeing a smile on somebody's face when they accomplish their dreams and their goals, or when they get promoted, or when they receive an award. I don't do it for myself. And I say this, I don't do it for the thank yous. I don't do it for the money because, at 28 years, I'm almost at 75%. But I do it for the Marines. The better that I am, the better the Marines are going to be. The better I serve them, the better they're going to be and their families are going to be. So when I look at the why I continue, no matter of pain, no matter of how hard it is to wake up in the morning, regardless of what day it is, right? Or if there's a day that I feel that way, I know that I need to get to those Marines, and I know that I need to provide them the service that I can, right? It's always that, and it took me a long time. I'm not going to tell you that I learned that the day one. It's part of developing. It's part of getting old, like you say, or part of serving in the Marine Corps for this while, right? But to where I'm at and where I've been for a while now is that it's all about the Marines, right? And the other question that I was asked yesterday that I answered it is like, how do you compete with your peers or stay ahead of your peers or separate from your peers? If you love the Marines, if you take care of the Marines are going to take care of you. And if that happens, you will not need to do much but take care of the Marines. The Marines are not going to let you look bad. They're going to take care of you. They're going to give you the information that you need. They're going to train you. They're going to help you, right? So when it comes down to it, I never saw it that way. It's like I was just did my job and I did it to the best of my ability. And I focus on my responsibilities, on the Marines, and I focus on my authorities on what I can or cannot do. And then the Marines are just taking care of me. So my why is you. right? My
Mm,
why is you. Why do I keep on doing it? It's you, right? I know that you and I have been playing phone tag on this, doing this, but I told you I was going to do it. And you're like,
sir.
hey, sometimes people cancel. And I told you, give me a schedule. Let's plan this, put it on my calendar, and I will be there for you. And it's not just saying that I'm going to be there for you, it's being there when you need me, right?
I mean,
So now the why for the nation, I'll tell you, I'm an
mm,
immigrant. Um, and I've been an immigrant, right? I immigrated to this country and I have received opportunities that I know for a fact I wouldn't have had in my home country, right? I, I say this, and I've said it just maybe one or twice before. I have to do this. I have to get back to the defense of this country. I have to, because somewhere along those lines, and people might not like it, and this is just my view. I'm not DoD view, not Marine Corps view, but this is my personal view. I have to defend the country for the opportunities and the freedoms and the liberties that are given to me or were given to me and given to everybody in that country, in the United States of America, right? I do. Because when that kid was crossing the Rio Grande, he never thought that he was going to have the things that he has now. And that is because he is in the United States that he was able to accomplish those things. So I have to, when it comes down to the nation, I have to do this, and I had to do this, and continue to do this, because for the most part, if I'm doing my job, and at one point or another, I'm gonna have to retire, right? And I'm going to continue to support our Marines, our sailors, our coasties, our soldiers, our guardians, and our airmen, because you guys are doing, and ladies, right, are doing something that not many people decide to do, and that is defend this country with your life if necessary.
wow. Wow. Wow, sir. Those are two phenomenal whys. I couldn't have, said it better myself or expected an amazing answer like that. I really appreciate that, sir. And it's, and I asked that question just, sir, just because, with the duty and one of the biggest excuses people make is time. Oh, I don't have the time. And then I see people who are in the gym 3, 4, 5 times a day, or they're reading books, or they're doing this, or they're getting their degrees, and it just I always like to ask people like, hey, what is your driving force, and what is your driving factor, and why do you continue to do this? Especially somebody as yourself who's been doing it as long as you have. Not talking about your age, but so sir, tell us a little bit about the position that you have in the ANSO, and kind of explain to us what that is for those of us who don't know what it is, and kind of explain, your the purpose, the task behind it, and
Yeah,
everything
no,
like
this ties in, right? I've done more than just this, right? Like I've been volunteering my entire career, right? I always find time, and I will say this: the Association of Naval Services Officers, even though it says officers in the title, is all inclusive. It's for everybody, right? So this is for the vision and the mission of it is basically to assist the sea service chiefs, right? Which means the Merchant Marines, the Marine Corps, the Navy, and the Coast Guard, uh, in the recruitment, retention, promotion, and the return of the service members back into the civilian sector of Hispanics, right? So it's based on the vision, and the mission is based for Hispanics and Latinos, right? And it started in 1981, and it was mainly for officers because we didn't have that many officers in their services. And at the same time, they were not getting promoted, right? They were not getting promoted at the rate. And, that's near here or there. I don't know exactly why. Everybody can assume, but I've never been on those boards, right? So when it comes down to 1981, I was only 6, right? So I don't know,
yeah.
but it was a challenging, right? And it's still something that the sea services are focused on the recruitment, retention, and promoting of Latinos and Hispanics in the services. So this association helps across the United States. We have chapters in New England, in DC, in Norfolk, in Miami. We got chapters in San Antonio. We got in San Diego, San Francisco, and I'm missing one, but we didn't have per se. We haven't had a Marine president of the association since 2001. So I am the first one in over 20 years to be a Marine, and I'm the president of the association, right? So since I became the president, we have increased the memberships a little bit, not much, right? But it's increasing, it's moving in the right direction. But most importantly, we have had Marines out of Okinawa get together. We have had Marines out of Honolulu that are restarting a chapter so that they get together, right? There's Marines in Camp Pendleton that are looking at doing that. So all he does is basically bring them together for mentorship, networking, leadership opportunities, but it's not just for Hispanics and Latinos, it's for everybody, right? So we invite anyone and everyone to come in. And it's not only for officers, it's for also enlisted, right? So it's all inclusive. One of the things that I was asked when I became the service rep in 2009 was, hey, you want to be this, represent for the Marine Corps. And I said, I'll do it only if you bring my enlisted Marines along, right? Like if my enlisted Marines come in, because it says all ranks, right? So I wanted to maximize the all ranks. And that is what I'm doing now, right? So we have increased participation to the symposiums that happen in Norfolk and in San Diego. We have increased participation in the Latina Symposium. But if you look at it, right, if you look closely at that picture, you're going to see that it's not just Latinos, right? We want to learn from each other. We want to learn and support each other. We want to encourage each other. And we know, at least with under my leadership, right, and everybody that is in the board director for the Association of Naval Services Officers, that we are stronger, right, if we unite, that together we're stronger, right, and that our success is the success of everybody around us, right, and that we believe we're a family. We have that family environment and we are bringing it up, right? And I'm making and emphasizing that we are a family away from our families, because that is what our service members become. So that's what I do. But most important thing, we're going back to the recruiting side, right? You say 1987, and then I come in and immigrating. And then I go in and listen to the Marine Corps. And then after that, I continue and work hard and they support the Marines, because I did my part, but the Marines did a lot more for me to get me to where I'm at, right? I become a lieutenant colonel, and then I become the president of an association, right? That is usually the leader or the president of that is a colonel or general officer, right? So when you start looking at it and you're saying, if the Marine Corps and if this country, if you question if the Marine Corps in this country give you opportunities, just reflect on something that I've done and look at the things on my path, where now I'm the president of ENSO, that I'm a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps. I've done so many other things. But the beauty about this, when it comes down to ENSO, is that I'm not the only one. When you start looking across the services, I am not the only one with something similar to this story. It's unique. My story is unique to me, but it's not unique to thousands of service members out there, right? Regardless of what country they come from. And all we're trying to do is offer mentorship, networking, and opportunities to help you and help anyone that would like to join us to be better, right?
Yeah.
So, and like I said, this, right? We got chapters in all these places, and the reason why I'm saying that is because I know that you guys need assistance. I know that you guys and ladies and Marines in general and service, right? Sailors and coasties, you guys need assistance as you are looking at doing what you're doing for our nation, finding the next generation of Marines, right? I got speakers for you, right? I got people that can come into your pool functions if you want in those locations that I mentioned, that they can come and help you. I got people that are willing to assist you. And there's scholarships right now for Latinos and Hispanics, since we're talking about that community, right? That if they're part of JROTC, the Association of Naval Services Officers has $10,000 that is offering 10 $1,000 scholarships this year.
Oh, wow.
Right. So there's opportunities and there's things out there that we are doing that we're able to help our recruiting force out there to facilitate some of those discussions. All I need is basically to find me on Instagram, or find me, if you need to get the email, going to the ENSO website, find me in there on the board director and shoot me an email. If you're looking for some speaker, for especially, like, let's say you have some challenges when it comes down to Latinas, right? Because there's some challenges when it comes down to recruiting our Latinas, our young kids. Hey, we got women service members who are Latinas, who are willing to volunteer to come and speak to your Latinas for the Women History Month, right? So there's things out there that I can do to assist you. I might not be able to do everything that you might want me to do, but if you coordinate it through your SEO and your staff in CIC, we can definitely work through some things and make sure that we provide you the support that you need. But we are here to help, and one of our missions, like I said, is to help you recruit.
Amen. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, sir, so much. One question I do have: this program, is it available to reservists that are Hispanic and Latina, or is it only an
Uh,
active duty program?
what service? I'm sorry.
And so,
Oh, for everybody.
okay,
I'm
all
never
right.
going to turn anybody down.
I
Anybody.
wasn't sure. I wasn't sure. I just
Anyone.
wanted to ask. But
No,
okay.
never.
So we just find. So where do we find the website? Is it just anso.com? What's the website, sir?
It's at if you type ANSO, it takes you out there. It says Naval Service Association of Naval Services Officers, and it should
Okay.
be enso.mil if I not enso.mil, enso.org.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, sir, thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate the time, sir. It's been a phenomenal time talking about all the opportunities that you've had in the Marine Corps, sir. And thank you for the speaking the Spanish as well and being able to translate that for us, sir. Do you have any last words, sir, for anybody listening or the families out there that were eagerly trying to get into the Marine Corps and show them the different paths that we have for them, sir?
Yeah, specifically for the Marine Corps, right? The Marine Corps is not easy, right? The Marine Corps is not easy, and it shouldn't be because, like I said, less than 1% of the nation serves in the military, and less than that serves to be a Marine. But if you become a Marine and at least take the first step to become a Marine, and then you end up becoming a Marine, you're forever going to have that title, right? So it's never going to be taken away. Now, if you don't take that opportunity and you don't take that leap and you don't take that chance, at that point, you're never going to find out if you were capable of doing one, like be one of us, right? There's so many times, and I'm sure that you have experienced that we go into places and it says, I was going to be a Marine, but I wish I could be a Marine, but right. If you really want to find out who you are and you want to find out if you're capable of being one of us, there's only one way, and that is to call our Marine recruiters or our Marines in recruiting duty at your local station. If you don't want to find out, hey, come and talk to them at least and find out if you even have the opportunity to become one of us, right? Because you might live your entire life saying, I was going to become a Marine, but in reality, you were never even going to be qualified because you didn't even have the mental stability or the mental scores or the physical ability to be able to be one. So the only way that you find out if you're going to be good or you're going to be better or you have the potential to be one of us is to talk to one of our Marine recruiters and have a conversation. Just because you have a conversation doesn't mean that you are signing up. But if you don't ever have a conversation, you're never going to have opportunities. Therefore, you're never going to be better. So I would say to those kids and to the parents, um, we came to this country to be better. We came to this country to give back. We came to this country to contribute to the American communities because we are better than just saying we're not going to defend, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that. So if we truly came here to be better, jump on those opportunities, education, travel, and financial stability so that we can make sure that our next generation is even better than us. We cannot continue to say empty phrases and expect different results. To the Marines out there, like I said, thank you so much for what you do. It's an honor, it's a privilege to serve with you. I might not know you, but you know me probably because I put stuff on Instagram and podcasts like this. But I tell you that there's not a day that it goes by that I'm not thankful that you're out there, regardless of what country you're in, regardless of what base you're in, regardless of what you're doing. Every single one of you matter. If you ever need anything, just shoot me a message. If you ever need some support, asking for help is not bad. Asking support and asking for help is a sign of strength, and we got to stop looking at it as a weakness. So I would say it again: together we're stronger. Do not struggle through something by yourself, because as Marines we work together. We work when we work our best is when we work together. Semper
Amen.
Fi. I love y'all, and I wish you nothing but the best to you and your families.
Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate you so much. Phenomenal time again. And thank you for coming out, sir. We'll talk to you soon.
Hurrah.